We acknowledge that we meet today on Kaurna land and respect the Kaurna people and the traditional owners of this land.
In this context, this book launch is an appropriate opening for Children's Week. By focusing on the child and the family in the context of their whole life and on innovative programs and initiatives, building integrated connections begins to address the issues that are always of concern for Children's Week Association members who work to meet the needs of children in ways that are effective and sustainable. While Children's Week is celebrated for 1 week a year, initiatives like this publication keep the needs of children and their families as a continuing focus and promote sustainable programs that can bring about change.
What we really need is a place where they can go, which we'll call today an integrated connected tree. So there we have in the front an integrated connected tree. And the integrated connected tree has a big sign out the front which says all welcome. A big sign which says all welcome. There is no wrong door. People can come and they can be connected to a tree which is well connected to different agencies, has different disciplines working there, and they're all working together harmoniously to work to support the family. Isn't that great? Wouldn't that be great? What's the problem? Well, one of the problems is who's going to fund the tree, and who's going to maintain the tree, and who's going to manage the tree. How do you develop integrated place-based support for children and families that's effective? Well, a lot of us have been wrestling with that, so we decided to have a conference together, and we brought together people from different disciplines and different states to come together and look at some of the issues around building integrated place-based support for families so they can come in and not go in the wrong door, not be referred to anywhere else, but their issues can be dealt with in a holistic kind of a way. And we had the conference, and the UK publisher invited us to come and put together a book about it. So that's how this book has come about. It's come out of that conference. So what's the book all about? So what are the roots? First of all, it's about the roots of the integrated connected tree, and the roots are basically to be found in the first 3 chapters. The first 6 chapters actually talk about some of the basic things that we need to get right if we're going to have an integrated connected tree. There's a chapter by Margaret Sims at the beginning about what neuroscience is telling us about supporting families. And neuroscience has just changed our whole thinking in the last 20 or 30 years about child development and the key importance of that and what the implications of that are. I'll get Margaret to talk about that in a sec. The second chapter is about families. So the first one's about children, the second one's about families, how families can support each other, how they can give peer support to each other, and how they can provide peer learning for each other. Sarah Schulman, Carolyn Curtis and Chris Vanstone from Taxi have put that together for us. And the third one is about communities. How can communities be developed? And as Frank Tesoriero, who's here, points out in his book, how can there be community-based services if you don't have a community on which to base them? And by and large, communities have got lost in the community that we live in today. So we need to be all about developing communities, and Paul Madden and Sarah Spiker talk about that in the third chapter. The fourth chapter is really about whether integrated child and family centres work, and Elspeth McGuinness and Ali Diamond put that chapter together and did an evaluation of Family Zone at Ingle Farm, which is one of the initiatives that Communities for Children have developed out at Salisbury. And then there's a chapter on how do you develop child and family communities by Paul Pritchard, Suzanne Purdon and Jennifer Chaplin. Paul makes the point that really it's not about centres, it's not about buildings, it's about developing communities. It takes a village to raise a child, and we need to develop communities which can be supportive of families. So Paul and the others really address that issue in the fifth chapter. And the sixth chapter, Margaret Sims, again picks up the whole issue of integrated early childhood service delivery and what her vision for it is. we need a vision, we need to know where we're going, and she actually develops that, and she's developing training. She's a person of great vision, Margaret. She's developing training for integrated service delivery, and she's doing it knowing that it's going to come and it's going to happen, and that's why we're really pleased to have Tony here and Julie, wherever she is, knowing that we're going to continue to invest in early childhood because we know the outcomes of doing that are really, really significant. So maybe we can have another 50 child and family centres within the next 3 or 4 years, budget being right. And then there's another 5 chapters by about 40 different contributors from all across Australia, ranging from the Kimberley in the northwest of Western Australia. There's a chapter from there to Tasmania in the southeast corner of Tasmania. There are a number of people who are doing work on the ground, developing place-based integrated support services who have contributed and talk about some of the issues involved with that. And there's quite a few from in between, which is little old Adelaide, and we're quite thrilled with some of the work that's going on in Adelaide. As Margie Wally, who did the forward, points out, that she's excited about what's going on in Adelaide too. So little old Adelaide is able to, something good can come from little old Adelaide. And the final chapter is really about how do we sort out the wood from the trees? How do we navigate future directions? Where are we going to go? Where do we need to go with this thing? What are some of the policy issues we need to address? And basically the Children Communities Connection 2010 conference, what we did is we got the whole conference to come together and put their ideas together and look at some of the policy issues that need to be addressed. And so the last chapter talks about those and what are some of the things we need to face as we move to the future, sort out the wood from the trees and really do something to support children and families in a way that's really effective. So people know where to go, know which door to open, and know where you can go if you've got a family problem.
I think that the work that we're doing together is really, really, really important. I think we are creating a new way of working and a new professional with a whole new professional identity. And together we'll be able to create a different world for children and families in this community, in communities across Australia. And I hope that as my grandchildren grow up, that the kind of world they grow up into is going to be very different because of the work you're all doing today. So I want to thank you for that and encourage you to keep going because I think it's really important. Thank you.
The Honourable Julie Collins, would you come and do the honour?
Thank you, Alan, and it is wonderful to be here. I want to start by acknowledging the traditional owners on the land on which we meet today and pay my respects to their elders past and present. Also, I'd like to acknowledge my federal colleague Tony Zapier, the local federal member here, and thank you all for inviting me to this very important launch of building integrated connections for children, their families and community. But the great example is of what collaboration between government, academics and the community sector can achieve together. And to be really frank, you have a whole lot of conferences out there and it's great to see a result from some of the conferences that you've been holding. And particularly this book carries ideas and passion and commitment from the experts that were at the conference into the future. And we heard from Margaret, it is about the children and it is about the future, and we all want a better future for the children in our local communities. It means that those that weren't able to attend these conferences have an ability to learn from the others that were at the conference and to read the findings of this important work. It also will promote meaningful discussions, I hope, in local communities amongst service providers and amongst practitioners in local communities. It's also an excellent resource for various levels of government, local, state and federal. And I'll be ensuring that people in my department of FAXIA obviously are aware of it and reading it in the children and family area. We all know that topics such as supporting vulnerable children and vulnerable families and children's wellbeing and community development are relevant to all governments, but it's not just governments, it's community sector organisations and its whole communities. Can I end by congratulating Carl and Professor Margaret Sims on pulling together this book. I'm sure that it'll be well used as a resource across the community sector for those people working with families and children. Congratulations also to Cambridge Scholars Publishing for their decision to publish it. I think it was a very wise decision, and I'm sure it will be used by the sector greatly. I also want to applaud the work being done on the ground by the community service providers, particularly for the Communities for Children Facilitating Partners and the community partners. I know that you're on the ground day in, day out, providing these services for local communities, doing the work, building stronger communities, more resilient families, and hopefully in the future, more resilient children. Thank you all, and it's my pleasure to officially launch the book. I get to unwrap, apparently. The Building Integrated Connections for Children, Their Families and Communities. I hope you all take a copy, and I hope that you read it and that it becomes widely used in the community as a resource tool. Thank you.